Hey folks, this is Brian again. I am back. You are here on my journey to build 8 apps by the end of the year and monetize those for additional revenue and income for our household. So, what we're doing today is, again, this is our second video of the week. We're doing Mondays and Thursdays now. And what we're kind of focusing on more than anything else is just the fact that right now, obviously, as you can see on my screen here, I have Daypath. Daypath is the second app I've built. It's an app to help you get to the destination you want. So achieve the things that you want to achieve by the end of the year, and lays out by quarter, month, and a week in order to help you get to where you need to be, right? So it kind of gives you that structure you need in order to keep making progress every day of the week, right? So I'm using this to kind of like, again, track my own journey in order to kind of get to those 8 apps. So the things we're going to talk about today. So we're going to go through our daily check-in, but I have a special surprise in the fact that we made a lot of progress on app number 3. And so we're going to go through the prototype and I'm going to talk about what app number 3 is all about. So stick with me at the end here, and then we're going to jump right into that. All right, so let's go ahead and just take a quick view here. Here's my path that I'm on today. Again, here's what we're talking about is the build 6 revenue generating apps powered by AI and the AI tools, right? So here we're still in this part, May week 2. Again, we're ahead of the game here. I mean, I'm still like a couple weeks ahead. So I'm actually kind of getting to that point to where we can get here. I'm not there just yet though. So the priority, we haven't gone through we're not going to look at this right now. We haven't gone through our daily check-in. So once we kind of go through our daily check-in, we'll have reset that priority. So what have I been up to this week here? So a couple of different things. So yesterday I was able to develop some AI characters that I'm going to start interviewing today. I'll cut the grass, which is a personal thing. Research UI payment issues. On Monday, we did a lot of stuff. We had like a lot of things kind of planned that day. Essentially, kind of going through the relaunch of Daypath. We're talking about it in new ways. That is on its way now. And now we're kind of going to the point of kind of making progress on app number 3 as app number 2 is starting to, kind of gain a little bit more traction, right? So we'll do a recap on Monday, what we've been able to accomplish thus far, right? Like whether it be, impressions, views, all those type of things. Again, we're still looking for that number 1, or excuse me, that first paying subscriber, but I think we're right on track. I'm not really worried about it. We're going to get there when we get there. So let's go ahead and jump right on in. So yesterday's reflection, here's a quick look at how the day went. Yesterday's summary, I was charged up. I completed 3 tasks. Yesterday's summary, you had a productive day building out your app ideas from character interviews to your MVP one-pager. It's great that the garage workspace and nice weather boosted your mood, especially since you've been navigating a bit of an energy slump lately. Keep learning or keep leaning into that creative momentum. All right, so I'm charged up to this morning. As you can see, I have all types of energy. Looks like here. So energy coach, it's wonderful to see that you're feeling so charged up and ready to take on the day with such high energy and spirits. You have maintained fantastic streak of steady and high energy all week. So now is the perfect time to tackle your most challenging project while your momentum is peaking. All right. So, like I said, we have 6 steps inside of a daily check-in. The first one is always, hey, just do a quick recap of what happened yesterday. What tasks were you able to complete? Get a quick summary, and then kind of say, hey, which is what your energy was yesterday. And then it goes into getting your energy level today, and then it kind of like assesses that. The next one's always gratitude. I'm always thinking about like, hey, what are you thankful for? A couple things I'm thankful for. I'm always thankful when I have a sunny morning, and today's morning is just that. The next thing is I just realized, like, I learned how to cut hair a long, long time ago, right? Back in college, and I'm kind of like now starting to teach my kids this skill set, and it's saved me so much money over time. I mean, it's a whole different thing when it comes to going to the barber shop and what they're charging now. But I digress on that. But and the last one is just I was able to kind of sort out the UI benefits for those things. But yeah, so I'm thankful for those 3 today. Moving forward, with 6 apps to go, What specific impact will app number 3 have? And I think I'm not gonna read this whole thing, but my big thing more than anything else is that app number 3 is really focused on helping folks out of the workforce get back into it and kinda helping them kinda, like, talk about, in corporate speak, what they've been doing with that time away from the workforce, right? And I think this is personal to me a little bit because my wife has been away from the workforce for a little bit, and she's trying to get back in, and sometimes it's hard to kinda communicate those things when it comes to what you've been doing and the things you've been managing and taking care of. And sometimes you even maybe undervalue it yourself, right? So I was like, there's things that you do on a day-to-day basis that's valuable to anyone when it comes to that. So we're gonna dive a little bit more into that, and I'm gonna show you what the prototype looks like right now. Again, this is well before we get to the point of actually kind of diving in and saying, hey, here's a few full final design and here's a landing page and all that. Right now, I'm kind of experimenting and figuring out what could possibly work best. This is one of the reasons why I'm actually kind of going through some of these user interviews today. That way, we can kind of make sure that we're saying things in the right way and we're being cognizant of their emotional state as they're trying to get back in to the workforce. All right, so let's jump into tasks. I have a pickleball tournament coming up at the end of the week, so I need to relearn how to use my camera, my action camera, and make sure I have that up and going. Let's see here. Research 3 key competitors. Yes, so I think I'm going to do that today as well. Perform additional testing. Yes, I want to do some more testing. I need to practice for the pickleball tournament, develop this video that we're going through right now, and then complete 2 user interviews for the new app, and then I'll hit the finish the grass because some of my batteries ran out yesterday. So I'm gonna go ahead and go with that. Let's see what they suggest for my number 1 priority. So it says I would have completely agree with this already. Complete 2 user interviews for new app. While building logic is your weekly focus, completing user interviews the most critical step to ensure that MVP core you're generating actually solves the specific pain points of the job seekers before you finalize the code. This bridges the gap between just building effective effective distribution that you noted in your journal. So you see that right there. So I literally just mentioned effective distribution inside the journal, and here is mentioning here. So like the thing is, it's listening as a contributor to what you're doing when you're actually kind of filling this out. This is actually one of the tools that I wish I had or I had for as trying to accomplish various achievements throughout the year or years, I should say. I wish I had something like this, right? So this is actually really cool. I'm going to keep that. I think this is a good recommendation as far as the number 1 or the priority for today. So we'll keep that, and then we'll jump into our new name. So as you can see, we went there. Now we have a check mark up here saying we did our daily check-in. And now today's priority is going to complete the 2 user interviews. So that is essentially our daily check-in. So now let's jump into the app. I'm going to tell you all about it, and we can go in and look at that a little bit more deeply here. All right, so right now I'm over in Claude. As you can see on this side here, I have a little bit smaller screen, but the idea more than anything else is of this app. So let me just, kind of give you a preface it for a little bit. Right now, you have about 43 million individuals that have been home for caretaking, or they're taking care of a loved one or someone that's ill. And a lot of people have been out of work for a period of time, right? A lot of times when you're trying to get back into work, I know even when I had a year off, it was like, okay, what do I do during this time? And sometimes it's hard to kind of communicate that into the positions that you're aiming to go after, right? So the big thing here more than anything else is going to be like once you're kind of going through and this is what this really is a gap translator, right? Like a career gap translator, saying like it's saying why were you away from the workplace, or in this case workforce, and then from there it kind of goes into, as you can see here, like the gap type, your target. Let me see if I can zoom in. Yeah, awesome. All right, so the gap translator you have here. Time away from work is never empty. And it goes through 6 steps, right? The 6 steps are, the first one's going to be the gap type. Here you have various options here, family caregiver, homemaker, side project, sabbatical, health related leave, education, or self development, right? And then it goes into the target. In this case, the target is saying like, what are you going after? What type of industry are you going after? What type of role or position are you going after? And then it goes into the activities, like what activities have you been doing, while you've been away, right, from the workforce. After that, it starts to gain details on some of these activities that you've been doing, and then from that point, it actually starts to set up your resume, right? And the idea here is that it's going through and saying like, okay, based on all of those inputs, it's going to actually develop the action oriented bullet points for your resume and give you not only that, a essentially a fictitious company that you were working for during that time. So you can say, hey, it's not just like, oh, I'm going to submit my resume and my last entry on my resume was in 2006, for example. Like it's not going to do that. It's going to say, hey, at this point, I've been doing X. I was director of operations for this family LLC. And here are the things that I've been doing during that time. It actually kind of gets you more up to date of saying like, here are the new skills I have. And then also, in addition to that, it's actually going to look through and go through and develop a LinkedIn headline, and it's going to develop a LinkedIn about section so you can fill that in, because those that have been on the work for 7 to 10 years or whatever the case is, some of those things are not as relevant anymore. Some of the stuff they did in the past is not as relevant. So maybe you want to update that. Obviously, it's up to the user in order to do that. But here is kind of how we're going to go through it really quickly here. But here, just say, for example, I select homemaker here and continue. Now we're talking about target. So like, the first thing is you have the target. Next, I'm going to say, I want to go into technology, for example. Do I have a specific? I'm going to just say product manager. Oops. All right, so now we're going to the activities. The first one was going to ask you, right? So here, what were you doing? Select everything that applied to your time away, right? So just say I was gone for 3 to 5 years. Just say I managed a household budget. I managed home projects, bought or sold a home, and help just say relocate it, right? We're gonna just want to choose those just for the sake of simplicity for right now. And then the next part here, what you see is that do not filter yourself. Things that felt routine to you are professional accomplishments in disguise. And that's what the big thing more than anything else is. A lot of individuals that go through this experience of being away and they say, oh, that's just regular life, right? No, it's actually things that are impactful, right? It's impactful for the group of people that you're doing it for. So now, kind of going in this next step, you have detail stage, right? The detail stage now goes into all of these. Now, I'm not going to do a whole bunch here, only because I just want to show you the output. But I'm going to say, all right, here's what we did as manage the household budget, right? I'm not going to put anything in there. I'm going to add a couple of things here. Now, each one of these is an individual page. So you see 1 of 4. We selected 4 things, 1 of 4, and it's going to go through one by one. And then we're going to go through this really quick. And I'm just going to say, yeah, did this, did this. Navigated permits, number of projects. I'm just going to say 4 projects, total budget. I'm gonna just say $200,000. Even with this, you don't have to fill out everything. We're gonna say, actually, I'm not even gonna put anything in here right now. Sold a home, purchased a home, coordinate. So there's the 4 of 4. And so now it's gonna go through the resume setup, right? So here I'm just gonna say my last name, Owens. And so here it's gonna actually say, here's what your last name is. I'm director of how. So you can say chief of staff, director of operations. You can say current, and we're gonna say this is just say September. This is what you say is a prototype. And then here, so director of operations. Now generate my resume and LinkedIn package, right? So here, for example, now we have something to where we can actually generate this document, and it's going to go through reading between the lines, finding an executive in your story, building your resume entry. here's exactly what's going on here. So this is the resume entry and LinkedIn profile ready to use, right? So look at these bullets here, right? It's giving you 5 to 7 bullets of various things. Now, if I added more information in there, saying like specific numbers, changes, and things of that nature, you would be able to see that in here. Saying own full P&L oversight for household operating budget, implementing financial controls and cost reduction strategies through vendor switching and the renegotiation resulting in reduced monthly operations costs. Now, it would be a number if we actually had the cost in there. It would say either percentage or whatever the case. And then here, for example, it's just saying like, all right, what were you actually doing for the past 35 years? You've been operating as a founder level executive running a multifunction organization with real financial accountability, vendor relationships, and complex project delivery. You manage a 200K capital portfolio across 4 simultaneous projects, negotiated contract with 5 contractors, navigated regulatory compliance, and executed full interstate relocation with 0 operational failure. That is not a gap on your resume. That is a track record. So you see, it almost kind of gives them a boost or a lift of like, hey, you were actually doing stuff. Like if this was you translated in the corporate world, this is what you've been doing, right? So it's really interesting. Here's a LinkedIn package, for example, product manager, boom, 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 as a headline. Here's the about section, and then here's skills that you can add and copy to the LinkedIn that to kind of get you ready to get back into the workforce. But the MVP or the prototype of this, I'm still in the early stages of doing my due diligence and ensuring that this has a market need. But I think from what I have right now, it's pretty cool. I think that's for example, I think that's all we have for today. But yeah, I'm gonna keep working on this. I think it's really cool when it comes to actually having this essentially career gap translator and being able to say, hey, here are the things that I was doing during my time away, and here's how we can convert that into corporate language that obviously you see on resumes and kind of get people excited about you getting back into the workforce. But that's all I have for today. Thanks for your time, and I hope you enjoyed that new prototype for the new app that I'm building for the workforce reentry. If you are interested in this type of content, please subscribe. I think we're gonna make some really cool things kind of come up. Again, this is number 3. I have another 5 after that to build. So stick along with me as we build new apps, experiment with these tools, and kind of push them to the limits to develop cool things that help people in their everyday lives. All right, thanks everyone.